And welcome to the Go Earn It podcast. This is episode 20. I'm your host, Shane Sparks. Our 20th episode. Our guest today, familiar face, Cyclone David Carr, 5-time All-American, 3-time national finalist, 2-time national champion, 4-time Big 12 finalist. And you and I were talking before we started to hit record. You also won 5 high school state titles. You've done a lot, and I mean a lot of winning on big stages. One of the great faces, I believe, in this sport. David, it is great to have you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you. What an introduction. I'm just humbled to be on here and to be able to talk to you. I know I love your commentary. I love watching your show on the Big Ten Network and your oversight on the sport. So it's gonna be a lot of fun talking to you. I really appreciate it.
We could talk, David, probably for at least an hour. And I think it would be fascinating content to talk about you and Keegan O'Toole, one of the great rivalries in college wrestling. It'd be fun to sit with both you guys and go through every one of your matches and get your insight on those matches. Phenomenal. You guys have met 5 times. You now lead the series 3-2. You win that national championship. I don't know where to start with you and Keegan O'Toole. I guess I would start by simply saying, when you process and think about the rivalry in the matchup with you and Keegan O'Toole, what are some things that are top of mind when you think about you and him going at it on the Resolite?
I mean, just a competitor, a high-level competitor that I respect a lot. Someone that, when I moved up to 165, he was a clear thought in my mind, like, man, this is a guy I gotta beat. This is a guy that, before I had came in the weight class, had seemed almost unbeatable. I mean, his scrambling ability, the way he was wrestling and beating his opponents, and he was super young. And so for me, I was just thinking, like, man, this is gonna be a challenge. This is something that's gonna be a puzzle I got to figure out. And just to start the rivalry, we started at Missouri, and wrestling in his home crowd. Got a lot of booze, obviously, being wrestling there. And I could just tell I had a lot of respect for him. I remember at the All-Star Classic, he came up to me and was like, "Hey," because I'd known him and I've been kind of friends with him before. I hadn't seen him in a while. He came up to me. He's like, "Hey, I know we're gonna wrestle and stuff, and it's gonna be a battle. And we're gonna want to beat each other, but I just want to say, dude, I really love your faith and what you stand for." And that's really cool. It's really been awesome seeing that. And I was like, "Oh, dude, I really appreciate that. I look forward to wrestling with you and sharing the mat with you. It's gonna be a lot of fun." And then later on that year, we wrestled 3 times. I beat him twice. I beat him at the duel, and I beat him at the Big 12s, and then he beat me at nationals, kind of when it counts. And then this year, we didn't get to wrestle at the duel. He got sick. I think he had like the flu or something. And then we wrestled a few weeks later at the Big 12 championship, and he was able to beat me there. And that was a battle. That was a kind of a back and forth battle. The score doesn't look as close, but the way I had looked at it, it was really close. It was kind of like one takedown kind of changes the match as far as I could take the lead, but it was a really close kind of scramble, lots of scrambles, a lot of battling, and then wrestled in the NCAA semifinals and was able to win there. Close, kind of a back and forth. Both guys shooting a lot, lots of offense, and was able to get the takedown to win.
Want to go back, David, to Tulsa in 2023. You mentioned you beat him in the duel. You beat him to win another Big 12 title, but he got you that night. What was the difference? Because I want to go back. I remember Kevin Dresser, I think, watching an interview with him where he made a couple of comments about he didn't feel the best about some of the things that maybe happened during the day, like with maybe the focus and the preparation. Expand on that a little bit. What do you remember from that day in Tulsa, looking back?
Yeah, so the way that things had kind of went about that day, I mean, that the tournament was just such a tough tournament. I mean, I've had like some crazy draws. Like I remember that day. I mean, so leading up to that, I had Shane Griffith, national champ, in the quarters. And he had wrestled O'Toole in the finals the year before. Then I had Quincy Monday, who was an NCAA finalist the year before. who had been wrestling like unbelievable that tournament. And so by the time I had like made it to the finals, I was like, man, I'm in the finals. Let's go. I'm like excited, but a lot of energy. I expended a lot of energy just being like, man, I'm here. Finally, I'm back in the finals. And pretty much that day, you know, I didn't manage my day well, and that's kind of what he was kind of talking about. So, I was over at the arena for most of the day, instead of going back and resting, and I'm watching my teammates, and I'm interacting with fans all day, and you're on your feet. It can be kind of draining, and so I didn't get a chance to really go back and sleep and eat. And for me, I wasn't cutting that much weight for 65, so I'm like, oh, I'm fine. I ate a little bit and ate up a little bit, and that was about it. And I worked out, and it was just kind of like not my best time. I just didn't manage my time well. What you really want to do is you want to be able to rest off your feet. You don't want to try to think about wrestling too much all day. You want to try to distract yourself and relax and stay off your feet. And for that day, I was kind of moving around, talking to family, talking to fans, and kind of just enjoying it like it was a normal day. And I had to wrestle at 7 that night for the national championship. So, and it is good to kind of have the normal flow of things. And then my warm up wasn't the best. We had the Parade of Champions, and I'm kind of the second match. And so, the Parade of Champions, as soon as the Parade of Champions is over, I'm on deck. So I got to get ready. So I'm running to warm up. Wasn't the best warm up. And then I'm already pretty much, getting ready to go and wrestle. But, for me, even with all that happening, and I didn't manage my day well, I didn't really do a good job. I still feel like I still put myself in a position where I could go win. And so going into the match, I just think that it was more just my focus. I don't know if my focus was 100% there. I don't know why. But that's the adjustment this year. The coaches were pretty much like, we need to man every detail counts. What are you eating? What time are you sleeping? What time is going to be your nap? What time is your warm up? It was just everything was very detailed oriented. Everything was from the warm up. I knew exactly from the warm up what I was going to do. It wasn't just a free for all of like, oh, I just want to try this and work on it. No, like these are the skills that we're going to focus on. And but it just made me more detail focused. But the year before, I was kind of just like whatever happens, and then I kind of went in, and he was able to win, and he made good adjustments. I tweeted after he had beat me. I tweeted like, "Hey, congrats to Keegan O'Toole. He was the better wrestler that day. He did a good job making the adjustments and being able to beat me. So a lot of credit to him. Definitely don't want to take that victory away from him and the credit because he wrestled a very smart match. He was very aggressive, wrestled smart, and wasn't able to get it done.
You've lost a handful of matches in college, a handful. I mean, you've done, as I said before, so much winning. So, winning's familiar territory for you. Losing, not so much. You lose that match to O'Toole, high stakes, national tournament. You'd beaten him twice. It doesn't work out for you. How, David, how did you deal with it that night? And how have you learned how to deal with the disappointments of this sport?
Yeah, losing it's tough. It's a humbling sport. Wrestling is a humbling sport. The more that I watch wrestling and wrestle, and anyone can lose if you're not on your A game. And so, after losing, what was really comforting is knowing that my identity and my faith is in Christ. And so, whether I win or lose a wrestling match, I know that Christ still loves me. I know that my family loves me. So it wasn't super devastating. It was more just a moment of reflection and knowing that these are the things I got to get better at. Looking at it objectively, as a young athlete, you take a lot of things personally when you lose. As I've gotten older, I've found that you don't want to personalize your loss. You don't want to be like, I lost, so I'm a loser, I'm a failure, I can never. No, just get your elbows in. You got hit with 2 duck unders. like make it, simplify it. Don't make it a big deal. Hey, you got taken down with a single leg. Let's work on the single leg defense. Doesn't mean you suck. And so for me personally, I've been able to look at matches with no emotions and look at it objectively. Hey, my elbow needs to be in. I need to be in that stance. When I shoot, my head has to be up. when he shoots, I need to be able to cover his head and sprawl. So some wrestling details there, but really what I'm saying is objectively, what do I need to get better at? And being able to look at it in that way has really helped me get better in the sport.
You went through your path in Tulsa in 2023. And now when you bring that up, I'm like, gosh, that's right. That path in 2023 was a meat grinder. And now 2024, Hamady in the quarters, O'Toole in the semis, Messenbrink in the final. It's like those are some gauntlets, to say the least. When you saw the bracket come out for 2024, you were the 4 seed. You know, what do you think there, David, when you look at that bracket and you see, here we go again?
Well, I'm gonna be honest. I think every athlete, encounters negative thoughts and a little bit of doubt. I think it's human, it's normal. And so, looking at the bracket, I was like, man, what a tough. I said, what a tough path. And my dad, I kind of smiled and kind of smiled and talked to my dad. My dad was like, he's like, this is good, and let's get ready. This is good. And Josh was like, yeah, I like this too. I like this is good for us. In my mind, I was like, "How is this good? This is gonna be a hard, like, I'm gonna have to really buckle down and get ready to scrap here before even the finals." So, I kinda you know, I I always think, like, the thing about a tournament is you pretty much gonna have to beat everybody. Either way, whether you wrestle them in the finals or first round, you're gonna have to beat the best guys to win if you wanna win. So, I kinda look at tournaments like that anyways, and so I went back and really just went back and sharpened my mind. I think the mind is such a powerful tool in the sport of wrestling. How you think, how you believe, how you visualize. And so I just went back once I saw the draw and just started visualizing and visualizing myself what it would be like, what it would feel like. I started just working, sharpening my mind, and that's kind of how I dealt with it. And then the more that I did that, the more that I grew my confidence and my awareness and my focus.
Is that something that you've just progressed in over the years? Like what kind of, I guess, peeling the onion back a little bit, David, like how do you do that? I mean, what are things you do and have done over the years to sharpen your mind?
Yeah, so I read a lot. So I've been reading probably like anywhere from 8 to 10 books a year, and a lot of the books are mental books. A lot of the books are psychology, uh, things like that. And so what I really like about a book is, and the books that I read at least, they're experiences of people who've actually gone through what I'm going through and have already gone through the hurdles. And so when I can read about a champion, I don't have to make the same pitfalls like they do. They've already done it. It's like a cheat code. So if I'm reading about an Olympic champion, like I think Dan Gable has a book, and I read some of the things in his book or read it in other people's books. If I'm learning that, Dan Gable's saying this about being focused and champion. And I remember even Dan Gable, the match that he lost, I really resonated with he lost his last college match where he was talking to the media. He really wasn't focused. There's a lot of things that were different about his day than it usually are. And I think with that match, with the match I lost to Tool, my day was so much different than it was. Like the Big 12, I was more relaxed. I was going in, I was doing a lot more routine stuff where I got out of my routine and then my result was not what I wanted. And so I remember reading that in a book about Dan Gable, and I was like, man, I was like telling Joshua, I was like, man, we need to get our routine down. We make it to the finals again. We need to make that routine down and sharpen that. And so there's so many lessons I've learned from books. And so before the nationals this year, I was like, dude, what I need to read something. I need to find a book. And the book I chose was called Failing Forward by I think it's Maxwell, something Maxwell, John Maxwell. And pretty much it just talks about all these people who've gone through adversity and used adversity to make them better, and gone through failure, made the failure to make them better, and how they never gave up. They never gave in, no matter how many losses or the company failed, or that they lost a job, or they lost in a big event. They just used it to propel them to be their best, to be Olympic champions, to be world champions, to be CEOs. And so in that book, I pretty much was like, I'm coming off a loss in the Big 12 finals. And I need to refocus my mind. And that book really helped me visualize and view failure as, man, it's a positive. I'm learning every time I lose. I get to learn valuable lessons. I get to get better as a person. I get to better as an athlete, as a wrestler, and that's what really, as far as the mind sharpening and things, that's what I've done over the years of getting better at that.
You mentioned the self-doubt. So you win the first two matches against O'Toole. He gets the natty in 2023. Then he beats you in the Big 12 finals. And in both those matches, as you said, it can be closer than what the score showed, but he was able to control those matches a little bit better in compared to some of the previous matches against you. What are you thinking in that tunnel? I mean, this was a huge match, highly anticipated. I mean, again, a guy like you, used to winning, he's gotten a couple matches on you. Like, what are you thinking as you toe the res light in that semifinal?
Yeah, I'm just telling myself, this is what you train for. Obviously, a lot of people are going to be watching this match. The crowd's going to get into it, being ready for the nerves and the things like that. But I'm really focused on my faith and just trusting, knowing who Jesus is to me, and knowing that the Lord won't block any good blessing from me. And I know if this isn't for me, I know that it's for a reason, and I can trust in God's plan. So that gives me some peace. And knowing I have to toe the line against a competitor that is not going to stop. He's going to wrestle in every position. It's not going to be easy. And I'm telling myself it's going to be a battle. It's not going to be easy. I'm going to have to take it. It's not going to be given. And this is what I've trained for. This is the big moment that I've trained for. And let's just let it fly. Let's see what we can do. And we shake hands, and boom, you just start wrestling. Everything that you've practiced, all the things that you've been thinking, now's the time. Now it's time to go.
How, during the course of your career, David, as you've evolved and matured in this sport, how have you embraced the hard of this sport? Because you said it before, you're capable of winning, but this is not going to be easy. Like, this is going to be extremely, extremely, extremely difficult to accomplish.
A lot of credit to my parents, and how they've raised me. I think I can think of some examples being younger. I remember being in the restroom room. I started in 5th grade. I started a little bit later. So the guys that I'm wrestling, they're a little bit, they know a lot more moves than me. I only know a few. And it's my first year of wrestling. I remember being in a practice room with my dad, and I'd hurt my hand, and it was like either swollen or sideways or something. I was hurting and I was crying, and I'm little, and I'm crying, and my dad comes over. He's running the practice. He's like, what's going on? What's going on? He's the coach, so he's running the practice. My partner doesn't have a partner. He's just standing there. So he's like, you gotta keep wrestling. And I'm like, Dad, look, like my finger's like swollen. And he says, and I'm crying, and he's like, let me see. He looks at it. He sees that it's, a little banged up, it's a little swollen. He's here. He grabs my hand, puts it in front of it, and says, get up and keep wrestling. Like, you're gonna have to keep wrestling. Hey, wrestling's a tough sport. You got to keep going. So I'm up. The kid's like taking me down. I'm like crying, holding my hand. And I wrestled through the practice. And I remember just thinking, like, man, I'm hurt and I'm tired. I'm getting my butt kicked, and I still got to keep going. And that was a good lesson that I learned. And then I remember the next time it was kind of getting hard again. And it's my first year wrestling. So I'm not used to, I did football and some other sports, and it was my first year wrestling, so I'm not used to everything being so hard, and my arms are tired, and kids are slamming me. And I'm in another practice, and I'm like, I think we had to do like sprints, and then we had to start wrestling again. And I pretty much was like telling my dad, like, I can't do it. I'm too tired. I can't. He was like, okay, tell me you can't do it. I can't. I'm too tired. Now do it anyways. Tell me you can't, and do it anyways. And then he would even say sometimes when things would get tough, tell me you can't do it. I can't do it. Now do it. And so I'd get up and I'd finish the workout. I would do it, and I would keep doing that, especially when I was younger. He'd have to really tell me, I'm cutting weight. I don't want to do it. That's okay. Do it anyways. And I think over the process of doing all those hard things when I didn't want to do them, being hurt and being things were getting tough and being able to battle through it, that's ultimately what helped me in the sport of wrestling when I got older, when things would get tough, is just knowing that, yeah, it's tough. Yeah, it's difficult. Yeah, I don't want to cut weight, but guess what? I got to do it anyways. I think of the year that I got upsetted in the semi or second round. I got upset in the second round against, I think, the 18th seed of Oregon State, and there's a lot of me didn't want to wrestle. A lot of me didn't want to cut. I was eight pounds over. A lot of me didn't want to cut that weight that night and show up the next day. But my dad just said, like, hey, I know you don't want to do it. Hey, let's do it anyways. Let's go get there. And simply, that's what I had to do.
I assumed you were a guy that started wrestling. Hey, when did you start wrestling, David? Oh, I was a year and a half. I was 2 years old. Like, I thought 100%. And that's why a lot of times I ask that question, and I intentionally was not going to plan on asking you that because I thought I'm not going to burn a question on something that's so obvious. Of course, he started when he was a year old. You said fifth grade?
Fifth grade, and I was terrible.
Really, that really surprises me, but I got to be honest with you. I kind of like that answer. What went into that process? What can you tell us about fifth grade? Starting at fifth grade and not starting when you were 4.
I mean, and I think another thing that I liked is I was very fresh. You know, I think sometimes you wrestle when you're born and you start wrestling, you can kind of get burned out from the monotonous of wrestling tournaments and tournaments and tournaments. And so the good thing about me starting in fifth grade was I was excited. I wanted to learn. The bad thing about me starting in fifth grade was I got my butt kicked a lot. I got my butt kicked a lot. Like, I think I won like 2 matches my first year. So that just gives you a picture of how bad I was. But again, to give you perspective, my dad's coaching this club. We're going to only national tournaments. So we're going to Tulsa Nationals, Dixie National, Liberty National. We're going to the best national tournaments you can go to for a little kid. And so it's my first year, but my teammates, they're good. They're winning these tournaments and getting triple crowns and they're doing really well. It's my first year, so I'm not doing so well. So I remember my mom yelling at my dad, like, why are we we're paying all this money to drive them all the way across the United States for them to go 2 and out. And my dad was just like, I'm aiming them, hon. I'm aiming them. And surely enough, I'm getting my butt kicked. And I'll tell you what, the good thing about getting your butt kicked, if you don't want to get your butt kicked anymore, you got to go back in the practice room and you got to focus. And you got to learn how to look away from a half, how to sprawl. So I learned those skills pretty quickly, how not to get pinned. And then from there, I started, let me see if I can get my own takedowns. And I kept focusing, and because I was losing so much, I was like, well, there's only up from here. And the next year, my second year wrestling, instead of going 2 and out, I got 7th, 8th, 5th, 5th, 4th. For me, I'm like, hey, I'm placing, I'm bringing home a trophy. I love this sport. This is awesome. Look how much better I've gotten. I went from going 2 and out and getting splayed-oed, and dude, if Instagram was a thing, I'd be on 16 highlight reels. I was terrible. And so I'm like, man, I'm getting better. I'm placing and then that was my 6th grade year. And then my 7th grade year, now I'm winning a lot more than I'm losing. I probably have more wins than losses. And then I just kept progressing until you got the product you have now.
When did you realize, David, that your dad was a bad dude?
Not for a long time. Because he's so humble. So he's so humble. We don't got like NCAA trophies, nowhere to be found. They're in the garage in a box. Olympic medals, he had it in like a little drawer for a while. And finally, I think my mom convinced him to like make this thing. So it's a Olympic warm up, his medal and things like that. I remember once I had started wrestling, I remember a kid, I'm doing the warm up. Because when I started, I only did the warm up just because I didn't really know the wrestling stuff too much. I just wanted to have fun. And a kid was like, how's it feel for your dad to be like this Olympian, this super? I'm like, is he? I don't know. he's so humble. He's never talked about it. And I remember I went, and I'm literally in fifth grade at this time, so I'm like 11 or 12. I went to my dad. I was like, "Dad, you're like in the Olympics. Like that's pretty cool." And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, I was all right." Like he was just so humble. And so I went home that night and I looked him up on Wikipedia or on the internet, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, he's in 6 Hall of Fames, 3-time national champ, 3 world teams, Olympic team, Olympic medalist, Goodwill Games. Like it's just all these accomplishments that go on and on and on." And I was like, wow, like my dad's pretty cool. And pretty much from there, I was like, I knew he had wrestled. I knew he was pretty good. I thought he was just like a state champ or something. And I found out, man, he's really good. And so it's crazy to think that I didn't even know how good my dad was until I was in like fifth grade.
What's the most impactful? I know this is probably a really tough question because I'm sure there are many, but is there a conversation that sticks out with you and your dad around wrestling that really had a big impact on you at any point in your career?
That's a tough one. Let me think. Uh, man, he's had a huge impact on me. Both my parents have. I think a conversation that really sticks out is and really when I started to take off in my wrestling career is I remember we were in the practice room, and I was getting ready to start my sophomore season, and he pretty much like, look, if you listen to me, I can't wrestle for you and win the championships. I can't do that. The only thing I can do is help you win. And I can help you really grow and become the best that you can be. And I can help you with these things. I've wrestled at the highest levels. I know what it takes. And he said, if you'll just listen to me, you're gonna keep going like this. And the people that were beating you in middle school aren't gonna beat you in high school. The people that are beating you in high school won't touch you in college. The people that were close in college won't touch you at the next level. And so that was the goal, is just keep aiming me to those things. And I remember him giving me that speech, and I remember being like, you know what? At that point, I remember just saying to myself, because it can be hard to balance the dad and coach relationship. Oh, it's just dad telling me to do this. No, this is coach telling you to do this, and you gotta listen. And so it's a tough balance, and my dad did a really good job of balancing the two, of making sure I felt loved, but also making sure that I was getting better. And so I just remember that conversation. I remember saying like, "Hey, what if you tell me to jump? I'm gonna say how high. If you tell me to run 10 miles, I'm gonna lace up my shoes and run 10 miles. If you tell me to do this, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna say yes, sir, no, sir, and I'm just gonna do it." And when I started listening, I started winning. And that was the common denominator. So I was like, all right, whatever this dude says, if he tells me to think I'm unbeatable, I'm gonna think I'm unbeatable. If he tells me to read books, I'm gonna read books. If he tells me that, you know, I remember him telling me a lot of it was, hey, you can be a champion, and you can, and no one will want to be around you if you're not humble. You can be the best wrestler ever, and no one wants to be your friend if you don't have good character and good morals. And so that was an emphasis too of, I think that was a good thing that I learned of, like, we want to win humbly, we want to lose humbly, we want to celebrate the right way, we want to have the characteristics of a champion. Because you can be a champion and not be truly a champion if you're a bad sport and you're negative and things like that.
Was it always Iowa State out of high school?
No, it wasn't Iowa State right away. I had always liked Iowa State, just knowing that my family had wrestled there, but there wasn't really much connection besides that. So, kind of living in Ohio, I really liked Ohio State. I really liked Oklahoma State. Obviously, I thought Penn State was pretty cool. But, Iowa State kind of came in the picture later on. Once Drescher got the job, he recruited me, and I was like, yeah, I would love to take a visit because it's, so much history and legacy. And I said to myself this, I was like, what the heck? I'll take a visit to Iowa State. There's gonna be pictures of my dad there. There's gonna be all of his records. I said, hey, that's just cool enough for me to go, just to check it out. I was like, I probably won't go here. I mean, I'll just go and check it out. Who knows? And I was like, what's the worst that could happen? I mean, it's a free visit. So I go and check it out. And I'm only like an hour into my visit. And I'm looking around the room. I'm just looking at everything. I'm like, man, I could win here. That's why I remember saying that to myself. I told my dad, I said, because Iowa State at the time, I mean, they're 57th in the country. They scored 1 point at the NCAA tournament. And for me, I'm like, dude, I don't work so hard to be a top recruit. I want to go to a place like Penn State, Ohio State. I want to go. These programs are number 1, number 2, and 3, and I'm like, I don't work hard to get recruited by them. And so that was kind of my mindset. But then when I was there on my visit at Iowa State, it just felt like home. You see the records on the board, you see the champions. I'm like, man, Dan Gable, Cale Sanderson, Jake Varner. You're looking at all the Olympic champions, all the national champions, the legacy, the history. I'm like, man, this would be a cool place to be. You know, this would be a pretty a cool dream. And um, just that's how it kind of came about. I really didn't even think I would go there. I just kind of went on that visit and I was just like, it hit me like, man, with the coaches and the way everything's set up, I think I could do all right here.
Where did you go on your visits, David? Where did you go?
Oklahoma State, Ohio State, Iowa State, and I only took 3 visits, and after that, I kind of knew where I wanted to go.
If not Iowa State, I always love the what ifs. Like I love, like my favorite question, like if this didn't happen, because it's just so interesting. If you didn't go to Iowa State, where do you think you would have went?
Now I'm a Cyclone loyal forever true. I love Iowa State. But if I didn't go to Iowa State, I would have ended up at Oklahoma State. At some reason that I went on my visit there and I was like 90% sure I was gonna go there. I was like, man, I was about ready to commit when I was on the visit. It was just a fun visit. John Smith did a really job recruiting me. They had who else was there on the staff? Angel Escovedo, or no, Esca.
Was
You know,
it trying to think? It was
he's a USA coach
yeah,
now.
you're thinking of Zach Esposito.
Zach Escovedo.
Yeah, there we go. Zach Esposito was there. Yeah.
He had helped me out and I've been around him. I really liked him and respected him and John Smith. So it's crazy because we have a good little rivalry with Oklahoma State now,
Sure.
and we beat them. But at the time, coming out of high school, Jordan Oliver he's my favorite wrestler. And so when I'm watching my favorite wrestler in orange constantly, and the way his style is, his swagger, the way he wrestled, I modeled my style after him. And these are the coaches that coached him. So I was like, it wouldn't be bad to go and be a Cowboy at the time. And I was like, I'm not even joking, 90% sure I was going to go there. And then I remember my dad was like, well, hold on, let's go to pro and cons. Let's look at Ohio State, Iowa State. Let's go think about it. And then so I kind of went back and prayed about it. And then I was like, you know what? I think it would be more impactful is kind of how I thought of it if I went to Iowa State, because they were kind of they were kind of in the back. They weren't as good. And Dresser's whole thing was like, we want to, revive the program. We want to make Iowa State, like back in the day, Iowa State was 1-2 with Iowa, and they were winning national championships. So he's like, we're trying to get it back where we're good again. And I kind of wanted to be a part of that process. And I thought about it and I was like, you know what? I think this is a good fit. And Iowa State, the rest is history.
I have always been horrible, David, at difficult conversations. To this day, I'm not good at it. And I wish it's one of the things that might be what I want to change about myself more than anything is being able to have a hard conversation. Did you call up John Smith to let him know that you weren't coming?
So again, I'm an 18-year-old high school kid.
Yeah.
So I'm not the same person as I am now. I think I would have did it a little differently. I think that it's hard to remember if I called him or texted him. I think I called him and I just said,
you're praying to God he gets the voicemail, right? You're just praying to God, please voicemail so I can just leave a message.
I think I pretty much was just like, hey, it looks like I'm gonna go to Iowa State. That's all. I just said it real quick. I didn't want to drag it on. And he said, I think he was just like, well, you know, I really appreciate you telling me. It makes sense, with your legacy and the Carr family's synonymous with Iowa State. We hope the best for you. We obviously we really wanted you, and I appreciate the call. And I said I appreciate it, Coach Smith, and then that was it. It was a quick call. I mean, maybe less than 2 minutes. But I just remember I was just like, I wanted to. I was like, hey, I wanted to send a text. I was like, I'll just call him real quick, and I just.
Good for you. I got to be honest. I probably would have taken the easy way out, and I'm embarrassed to say it. Texted. Hopefully, my mom or dad at that point would have said, "No, we're calling them up, doing it the right way."
They
But
spent they spent a really good, like, it was a great visit. They spent a lot of time into recruiting me. Like, I remember like being there, and I remember being on my visit, and then we have our in the meeting, and he was like, we really want you to come. Like, this, I think your style really would fit. And he was really selling it to me. And I was like, oh, it's so close. And I was like, he's like, what do you think? And I was like, I need to go back and think about it. Cause he was like, I think he's like, I really think like a guy like you is a generational talent. Like, there's not going to be a lot of guys like you. I think you can be the next, um, Jordan Oliver, next Ringer. I think you'd be a national champ. And for him to tell me that, I was like, man, that's a lot of confidence. Um, and so I like that too. But I think Iowa State too. At the same time, Joshua was like, "Do you could be 4-time national? You could be a national champ 4 times. Whatever you think you can do it. And we think you can do it here." So I think it was definitely hard. It was just hard. I think I Jeff was just like, yeah, I'm going to Iowa State. I was just, I'm an 18-year-old kid, and I'm nervous. I didn't really know how to handle it. I think Ohio State. So Ohio State, they're really. I was close to going there too. I think they were a good option just because I liked being close to home. But I did text Tom Ryan. I didn't end up calling him because I thought that if I had called him, um, I don't know if I don't know if he would try to just persuade me or try to just, it was like, are you sure? Like, I think it was just been hard because we had a good relationship too. And so I texted him. He wasn't the happiest about it because I think they pretty much thought I was gonna go there. Just being in Ohio, just going to I would go to their RTC practices. So that was tough too.
2021 in St. Louis, you win the national title, then down at 157. What do you remember from that night?
Um, I remember the cool things that stick out to me about winning nationals that year. Um, was I got to hang out with Aaron Brooks. We had a Bible study before, and hanging out with him and just talking with him. We're just, me and him are just like, man, we're in that. This is what we talked about. Like, we were always talking FaceTime and stuff. We're like, it's crazy. Like, we're in the national finals. Like, we prayed about this. We talked about this. Now it's an opportunity to go win a national title. And went and got warmed up with Metcalf, got ready. And I kind of was like, um, this was kind of like a joke in the room a little bit. I kind of, looking back to it, being a little older now, being a little wiser now, I don't know why I thought this was funny or it was a little bit of a joke. But I'm in the tunnel. I'm like, hey, like, if I win, I'm gonna do a for handspring and backflip, and if you want to tackle me, that'd be cool. If not, I'm just gonna do a flip, and it's gonna look cool either way. And he was like, we'll see. Like, you win, well, maybe I'll do that. And so I wasn't sure if he was gonna do it or not. I was like, all right, come on. If I win, you should do that. And I run out there, wrestle. I win 4-0, and then I go to do a flip. He tackled me. Super cool moment. That Metcalf's my guy. We have a really good relationship. He really helped me a lot on that year, and all the coaches did. But it was really, we have a real special relationship of just him helping me get better and speaking positive things to me. And so yeah, that's what I kind of remember. Then going back to the hotel and hanging out with some of my teammates, hanging out with Brooks, Gable Stevenson, some of those guys, some of the champs. We hung out that night, just, yeah.
Brett Metcalf, what's the most difficult conversation you and him have had?
I think it was the year after I had lost was really tough. The year I got third, that year that I got upset, that was really tough. I remember just talking to him and talking through it, and that was really just hard, is because I'm just like, why how did I lose? Why did I lose? I'm trying to figure out. I know I could do better, and it was just a lot of, that was just a tough that year. That one was tough, he pretty much had to just be like, dude, it's all right. You're good. We're gonna be able to figure this out. I would say that was probably the toughest time that we had together. Just because we spent a lot of time together working to win that year, and then not winning, it was really tough. And so I kind of, yeah, that one was tough. Hard to explain really why it was so tough. But it was tough on him. It was tough on the coaches, me not winning, and tough for me. But yeah, we had a lot of hard conversations that year. What we need to fix, how do we need to do it, and but yeah.
What was it like for you that season? That would have been 2022. You were the number one seed at the tournaments. Correct me if I'm wrong. You were undefeated before you lost to Willits of Oregon State on that Thursday night. You had won the title the year previous. Were there, added pressures? I'm assuming so. I mean, now you're the guy. I mean, what was that like, David, being the guy with the target on your back compared to the year before, where the expectations probably weren't as high?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of pressure, and the thing was, the way the year was going, like I had one of the longest active win streaks in the country. I was like 56-0. And going into the second round, I was just thinking like, all right, this is just like it's kind of like any other match, just getting ready. But I could just feel the different level of intensity that my opponents were wrestling. Like number one seed, everyone wrestles you hard. Everyone wants to beat you. And I kind of felt it a little bit during the year, but not like the NCAA tournament. And I remember after wrestling that and losing, just thinking like, this tournament is crazy. Like everyone is good. Like there is no gimmies. It's no easy matches. And that really had set in for me. And so the other years after that, I like every single match, I'm wrestling this match like it's the national finals. Like I am locked in. I don't care who you are. I don't care if your record's 10-10. I'm gonna wrestle you so physical, so aggressive. I'm gonna go and take what I want. And I think that year I just thought that, oh, I'm a national champ. I think I just thought like it was just gonna be easy. I just saw I'm gonna roll, because I had like a high bonus rate. I wrestling great. I think I just thought that even when the match was tight, I was just like, oh, I'll figure it out. Yeah, I just like I'll figure it out, and it didn't go my way.
You win the 2 national championships, and the way you won those, pretty crazy fashion. But I've always said, and I love that the national championships are great, but in a lot of ways, I'm more impressed with the third place in 2022. You're the reigning national champ. At that time, I'm sure you're thinking about winning 4. And then you get beat in the second round. You talked about it before. Your weight's up a little bit. Now you got to figure out a way to come back when you don't want to take third place. To me, there's just so much honor. Character, in my opinion, is revealed on the backside of the national tournament. What are you most proud of? What was most critical in getting third place, getting the next best thing, as people in wrestling always talk about?
I'll tell you what, you can put those 2 national titles together, and you can talk about the records and some of the things I've done. That was one of my most proud. That's up there. Like when I think about, even though it didn't go my way, I'm most proud of myself for how I responded, because it was like, talk about six matches I had to wrestle. Because it's the second round. Yeah, I had 6 matches I had to wrestle. And that night after I lost was just incredible. Just the worst thing that you could think of. That was that day. That was one of the worst days ever, just because I was just like, oh my, like I couldn't believe it. I was just in shock. Like I was literally just in my room, like, what just happened? And I just remember thinking like, there's no way. I remember I was just like, there's no way. Like I told my dad, I think I told my dad and Dresser, and this is bad, but I remember I was just like, if you think I'm gonna wrestle back You're crazy. I was like, after you lose, you're a little emotional. So this is like a few seconds or minute after my match, and I was just sitting there. I was like, "Well, come on, you need to get back." Cut weight. I was like, "Cut weight." I was like, "If you guys think I'm wrestling back, like you, like I came here to win. Like I came here to win." And so I go back. So the emotions had settled a little bit. It kind of set in. So I'm real upset. I check my weight. I'm 8 over. And I'm like, dude, this is ridiculous. Like, there's no way. And then finally, I'm just real upset. My dad comes in the room. He brings Brooks, and they're like, he gave me a hug, and he's like, dude, we got like you can do this. Like, he's just reminding me of all the things that I value, and he's reminding me about character. He's reminding me about honor, reminding me about who I wrestle for. He's like, are you wrestling for yourself, or are you wrestling for God? You think God wants you to just give up? Are you gonna wrestle for your family, your university, and for your faith for God? And that kind of slapped me in the face of like, man, that's that's why I'm telling people, I'm preaching to people like, man, this is what I'm doing it for my faith, and you know, I'm not gonna be a hypocrite, and I love my team, and then I finally, so I was like, all right, they prayed for me, and I got my stuff on. And I lost probably 2 pounds from just crying while I was running on the treadmill. Just 2 pounds of tears. And so I'm running, losing my weight. I make weight next day. And I remember just thinking, like, you know what? Joshua was like, these guys are looking. I got back in the arena. Joshua came up to me and was like, these guys are looking at how you're going to respond. You're a leader of Iowa State wrestling right now. How's David going to respond? You're a returning national champ. Show these guys what you're made of. Show these guys how you're going to respond. And I just told them, I was like, I'm gonna wrestle back hard, and I'm gonna get third, and I'm gonna do it for the team. And then it started with that match. I had an All-American in white sheets, and then I had another All-American against Caleb Young from Iowa. And then he's eventually was an All-American, but he was a 2-time blood round, was Frantic. And then I had Austin O'Connor, who was a 2-time national champ. Well, he had actually, we were supposed to wrestle. He had forfeited out because he hurt his leg. So I was going to have Austin O'Connor. He had forfeited out after he had All-American in the blood round. So I was getting ready for that match, and the coach told me he wasn't wrestling. So I went back and cut my weight. And then I had, what's the kid from Michigan, Luan.
Okay. Will Lewan, yeah.
And then I had Peyton Robb for third. And so just a lot
Dang.
of matches against a lot of good guys.
Messenbrink O'Toole takes you down in that semifinal, about a minute left. Do you remember what you were thinking at that moment when he took you down?
Yeah, I mean, when he took me down, I was just thinking like, I don't know. I was just like, I need to get out. That was the only thing I was thinking about. It was like, I just need to get out. And once I get out, I'll be able to see how much time's left and how much time I gotta get to get a takedown. And so, yeah, he took me down. And I remember like, he took me down, and I remember like trying to get up. And I remember him like, dude, he like locked my arm in place and not returned me. And I was like, oh my goodness. Like it was like hard, like put a lot of energy in it.
I got to be honest, when he did that to you, I thought it was done.
And I think
that's when I was watching it going, okay, that was like the last,
because I got to my feet. I'm to my feet. I'm like, I'm out. And then he just grabbed, and I was like, and Matt returned me really hard. And I was just thinking like, I have to get up. I just kept telling myself that. And so once he did that, I grabbed his wrist and I peeled it, and I got out, and I was like, all right, perfect. I got my one. Now I need to go score. I got on his leg. I was like, I need to score. I got on his leg. We're wrestling. Boom, we go out of bounds. I think his foot was out of bounds of the circle.
And that's where, David, there's about 25, 30 seconds left. How important was it for you? I mean, were you reading the body language? Because I went back, I've watched that match a couple of times. and he took a while to get back. Did that resonate with you or not really?
At the time, not that much. So I go out of bounds. His legs kicked out of bounds. So they stop it. And I remember just getting up and fixing my headgear, and I'm looking at my coaches. I'm looking like, what do I need to do? I see the time. It's 26, it's like 26 seconds, I think. And the coaches are like, Metcalf had lost his voice, so he's just memeing stuff to do. And St. John's like, you gotta get to a solid hold, you gotta get a takedown, short time, you gotta go right away. And I'm just getting the coaching. And then I remember like looking back over, and he was still O'Toole was still over there. He was like getting up the walkover. And like I wasn't really paying attention. So I'm like, I don't know. And then the crowd was like, I don't know if the crowd was booing him or like, hey, let's go. I don't know what's going on. So he's like walking back. And I'm like, and in my mind, I'm just like, he's just taking his time to kind of get back, maybe gather himself. I don't know. I was like, I don't really care. It's like I need to get to it, like get to his leg and score. That's all I'm thinking. And boom, I hit like a duck, and then I spam a double, and then I spam another single leg, and then I get him to reach, and I get him a single. So I took like 4 shots in like, I don't even know, like 5 or 6 seconds. And I get to his leg, and I go to get like a cutback, and I hit it hard and I put him to his butt. And then once I put him to his butt, it was like, and to my mind, I was like just thinking like, I just have to go. Like I gotta be able to finish. And I could feel him being a little fatigued when I got in his legs because I've wrestled him a lot of times. He's so flexible, so strong. I kind of could feel those different things. And so when I was on his leg, I could kind of feel the fatigue of like he was kind of just catching his breath a little bit. And I was like, I need to score. This is my time. And I was able to double off and get the takedown. And then he kind of just bellied out. And then that was it.
If you could ask Keegan O'Toole a question, something you guys have not talked about this rivalry, maybe it's a specific situation, could be a position, could be anything. When you look back at those 5 matches, I mean, those have been some dandies. Is there something, if you were just going to sit and BS with him, maybe the conversation's 20 years down the road, but is there anything that you'd love to ask him?
I mean, we're not like enemies or anything, and Christ calls us to love our enemies. So I've taught to him a little bit. Like I talked to him at the award stand, and we kind of talked through that match. He was like, dude, that was a crazy match. Like, dude, he was just like, that was nuts. Like, he was like, I was like, I kind of knew like that was going to be a hard match. I kind of knew that's kind of how it was going to go. Like, it's just going to be all out war. And then he was just like, we kind of talked about that, but if it was like, the thing is, I still have to kind of wrestle him for like Olympic trials and stuff like that. And but it'd be interesting. Say we go different weights. It's kind of like a Dake and Taylor situation where they eventually went different weights and they were able to train together. It'd be interesting to go over like certain positions and think about what he was thinking. And like I think it'd be interesting to think about like his thought process when in the finals last year, I hit a fake, I got to his leg, I was going double off. I was trying to finish, and as soon as I limped my arm out, he like bumped his hip into me to knock me over. And I was just thinking like, I was annoyed because I was like, dude, who does that? Like, I don't even like, it's just such a weird position. It was so annoying because I was like, how do you train for like stuff like that? And it was just, that was real frustrating because I was like I'm thinking like as soon as I went, like I'm good. Like I'm gonna score this position. And he turned it into a position where he scored and then was able to score eventually. And I'm just like, I don't know, like do you practice that? Is that just something you made up? Like it was like, are you able to tell the balance? That's something I thought would be interesting. But knowing that he's a competitor and wrestling, obviously I've worked on the position, but it'd been interesting to know what his thought process was and how he was able to get that. But obviously I think time to come, our rivalry will continue. I think for the next few years, wrestling world teams, Olympic teams, and things like that. So I'm sure once we're done wrestling, I'm sure we'll be friends and we'll be able to talk about some of those matches.
You beat Keegan O'Toole. It's a huge match in the semis. You avenge a couple of losses. The only problem is they don't hand out championship trophies on Friday night. I mean, you got another match to go. I saw some of the videos, and understandably so. You know, the emotion with you and your teammates, the coaches, like, I get it. But as a fan, I'm watching that going, he's got one more to go. Like, you got to get up again. How difficult was that? That's got to be extremely difficult.
Well, I mean, it was just like after I won, it was just like it was just a thing of like so like excited, like happy because it's just been such a battle and such a with a good competitor. Because to me, I'm like this is like a finals match. Like I think this is like a championship level match. Like this should be so the wrestling. So when I won, I'm like super excited, and then afterwards, I'm like I'm not even done yet. Like I still gotta wrestle another a good match. So I kind of was just able to kind of hone in and really focus in, turned off my phone, put it on do not disturb, just really just locked into to like, all right, I got 7 more minutes, 7 more minutes. And for me, it was easy to do that because this is my last college match. I'm gonna give it everything I have. I'm gonna be as focused as I can. I'm gonna be as relaxed and ready to go as I can because this is my last college match, wrestling folk style. I gotta give it all I got, and it's against a competitor that he's pretty much gonna wrestle the full seven. He ain't gonna take off, oh, wrestle some of it. No, he's gonna wrestle for 7 minutes, and for me, I love wrestling. Like I love wrestling hard. We're in the practice room. If we can make that match 20 minutes, let's go. I love it. It's a gladiator sport. Um, I pride myself in working hard, and I'm doing all these track sprints. Well, let's make it the use. Let's wrestle at a high pace, and let's go hard. And so that's why I really enjoyed it.
Give me an aspect of your training, if you can, specific aspect of your training or a drill that you think had the biggest impact in the outcome of this past season.
Man, there's a lot of good drills and things that really help me in the season get better. But I just think the workouts, as far as just the conditioning of being able to push myself when I didn't want to do it, like kind of like we talked about earlier. Like there's some times where we're after practice and Josh is like, all right, gotta put your shoes on. We just got done like scrapping. I'm talking hard. We're going hard. We're tired. We're sweaty. We're sore, and we had to go put our shoes on and run track sprints. And those sprints and those things like that, doing things like that were hard. I think that helped me in when you get into firefights with O'Toole and you get into firefights with Messenbrink, and you got to be able to keep calm and be ready and be alert. And I think those type of things helped. And that's why I was like, and that's why when I really think about it and I close my eyes, I'm like, man, Dresser's a genius. I always say he's the GOAT when it comes to coaching because the way he's able to turn around this program, him and the staff, um, the way that they're able to, even this year, I feel like they really did a good job of peaking us. Like the work, like we went really hard and then it was just like super light and easy, making sure our bodies recover, working on some last minute things. And it's a little bit different than years past. I think he's just gotten better every year of like helping us get better at peaking. And but yeah, no, we went some hard track. I say the hard track sprints in the morning, the hard track sprints after practice. I think those made a difference in that extra little layer of conditioning that helped me kind of finish those two matches and get the result that I wanted.
We talked a little bit about Metcalf and now Coach Dresser. What's your favorite thing about Derek St. John?
Derek St. John, man, I really so my freshman year when I first came in, he was my individual coach. He was my kind of my personal coach. Really helped me sharpen up those skills that I needed. Sharpening up my skills, gave me a lot of good advice as far as being even keel, being relaxed. It gave me a lot of, telling me that, routine is very important. What's your routine for your match? And so he gave me a really solid base to be able to be the wrestler that I could be in college as far as, the being calm, having a routine, stressing how important the routine is, weight cutting, making sure I knew the importance of cutting your weight right. So a lot of those good things like that he helped me with my freshman year, my red shirt in my freshman year. Um, and then another thing that I really liked, like at the NCAA tournament, the way it had worked out, Chittum, Metcalf's coaching Chittum, and we have all these we got so many mats, everyone's wrestling. So he was able to come and coach me up and really get me ready before the matches. Cause usually Metcalf's usually there. And so he's kind of just like, hey, let's go. Like let's let it fly, go wrestle. Just his attitude, his calmness of like, let's go wrestle, let's go score points, just be you. And just such a calm and steady guy. And I've grown a great relationship with him a lot over the time. We do this camp in Montana, Glasgow. We do it every year together, and it's just a fun time coaching and watching him coach other kids, and we're driving there, so it's a long drive, just going there and doing the camps, things like that, things I'll remember forever. So yeah, just he's so technical. I could go on and on about him as well. Just of he's one of the technical coaches that I've worked with. Game plan, like I mean, he's in the we're in the meetings like, what do we got to do to beat O'Toole? What are the things we need to get better at? We're all talking strategy. We're all hearing different things, and what advice can I get? Same thing with Messi Brink. Same thing with him, Mitty. Some of those top guys. We're talking strategy and game plan. And St. John's definitely a vocal voice. And hey, make sure you do this. Hey, let's remember these are the strategy points. Hey, these are things of emphasis. Let's make sure we're doing this. Keep your hand here. Let's do this. And that's why he's a really good coach.
Couple more for you, David. This has been just an awesome conversation. Anything about Messenbrink surprise you?
You know what? I actually had been watching him a lot during the year, and there's a lot of hype around him, and the way that he wrestles his style. It's a high pace. So as far as that, I don't think that surprised me as much. I thought I don't know if it was antics or just his attitude. I thought that was cool. He has like a real it looks like he's having fun out there. It looks like he enjoys the grind of a match, and like I said in one of my interviews, I have a lot of fun when I'm wrestling. Sometimes I'll even smile at my coaches in the corner. Um, but other than that, I try to keep it pretty calm, pretty even kill. Where he was like clapping, waving his fingers, smiling at me. I was like, this dude's nuts. I was like, it feels like we're at practice, really. It felt like we're at practice just wrestling a match. Like it feels like as far as his intensity and excitement, it kind of just felt like the weight of the match didn't really matter. Like he didn't care that it was the national finals. He was just going to go out and wrestle hard. So a lot of credit to him, the way he wrestled. And yeah, I think that was pretty cool.
What were your thoughts standing atop the podium when they announced your name as a national champ?
A lot of gratitude, just thankful for the many the blessings that God's given me. Grateful for my teammates. For me to win, it takes it for anyone to really win. I think it takes a team. And the coaches, play a big role. My family and my teammates, they're all supporting me. I mean, these guys, even though I take a few losses in the season, they're like, David, dude, you're the best. Like these guys, David, you can do it. If there's anyone who can do this, it's you. If anyone who can run the gauntlet, you're the guy. We believe in you. And I'm like, man, I mean, my teammates are telling me this stuff. Like, dude, we know you can do it. And it's just like, man, you start to believe it, and you start to appreciate it. And they never lost faith in me that I could be a national champion this year. And I think that was special. My coaches never lost faith. Like my coaches are smiling and they're just like, no, that's okay. We lost the Big 12. That's all right. That's good. This is right where you want to be. This is, I know I don't have to tell you much. I know how positive you are. I know your attitude. We don't got to do much. We just tweak some things. That's it. Just the manner of how positive and how uplifting my teammates and my coaches and my family was. They just expected me to win, and I thought that was cool.
Final question for you. During the course of your college career, what was your go earn it moment? Backs against the wall. I mean, maybe it's something that's not overly like, crazy popular. You know what I mean? Maybe it's something small. Like when you look back at your career, is there a moment where it was like, this is a go earn it moment where this, however I respond here is going to, impact the trajectory of my career moving forward?
I would say one thing that really impacted me, and like we kind of talked about, a go earn moment for me was just, that next day at the NCAA tournament after I lost, being the #1 seed, undefeated, take a loss, and it really, the paint had hit the metal. I mean, your back's against the wall, and I heard a quote that was like, "You never know how tough you are until you put in a tough situation." And I got to be put in that tough situation, and how I responded, and that was like I got to go earn it. I got to go take it. I got to go get third, and that's the next best thing. That's when I'm coaching one day, I can tell my athletes like, hey, I know it's difficult. I know you lost, but you got to get the next best thing. And I know that I can look at myself and say, I gave it my effort, even if I didn't All-American or I didn't get third. I just knew that I at least tried. I didn't just give up.
4-time Big 12 champion, 2-time national champion, David Carr of Iowa State. David, this was fantastic. Thank you so much for the time. I enjoyed this so much, and just a huge fan of yours. And I'm going to miss you. I mean, you're one of those guys. I mean, I've said this to you before. I mean, I just admire what you represent, how you carry yourself. You're a great wrestler, but I'm getting old now, so I'm more impressed with just the way people carry themselves. And Iowa State, I'll tell you, getting you to Iowa State, that is a game changer. Obviously, during the time when you were in that Cyclone singlet, but moving forward, they're in Ames. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.